The problem with postmodern economics is that words no longer describe reality. Take the Great Crash of 1929. The words say it all: smash up, accident, head-on collision, damage, victims, casualties, the economy off the rails, disaster. In comparison, a credit crisis doesn't sound too bad. I mean, we all have the odd crisis in our lives, at work, at school, at home, and we all get over them. And as for credit, that's money, isn't it? And as long as money or credit is in balance with bills or debit, everything's fine. But if my debts increase and I don't have enough money to cover them, would I then have a crisis? Some years ago, my accountant said to me, "You don't want to spend your retirement sitting behind the geraniums. You want to invest some money in a pension." Now, I quite like geraniums, but I took his advice and invested rather more than €5 in a pension fund. And that money was invested into stocks and shares. And since then, once a year, I get a letter from my pension fund with fantastic prognosis of what I'm going to be earning once I retire. But last year, I got a rather surprising letter because I found out that my pension was worth absolutely nothing. So where did all the money go? I think it's time we talk to some bankers. Well, here's the main square of the town in which I live. It's rather pretty, really, isn't it? And there on the left-hand side is a statue of our most famous citizen, Jan Pieterszoon Koen. And Jan Pieterszoon Koen made his money and his reputation by going out to Asia and grabbing many lands for the Dutch Republic. And here on his pedestal is written his motto, "Dispareert niet," which I think means he never disappeared. Just like the bankers, my sort of guy. Well, my bank is over here on the right-hand side, and I'm really looking forward to talking to some bankers and getting some good answers to some of my questions. Oh, what's going on here? My bank is boarded up. There's even a for sale sign on the wall. I mean, I know I've been doing internet banking for a few years now, but I thought at least my bank was still there. Well, I think there is another bank around the corner. Well, here I am round the corner, and somewhere over here on the left-hand side is a bank. I know it's not my bank, but I'm sure the bankers are going to be very, very helpful. Oh, what's that I see? For sale? And the bank's boarded up. So where have all the bankers gone? Could it be that they moved off the high street and into investment banks? I'm going to have to go home and sort this one out. Here we have a very, very simplified version of the banking system. And the banking system works by banks lending money to one another, extending credit. And every time they do that, they earn a small rate of interest. It may not be much, but when you're lending millions or billions, it soon adds up. Now, here's my bank with 100. We have a pension fund with 100, we have an investment bank with 100, and here are the big guys, an investment bank with 200. And here we've got Joe Bloggs and his friends. And Joe Bloggs and his friends want to buy houses. So my bank lends Joe 100, but now I have a problem. I have no more money. So what do? I put that 100, which I don't have anymore, down on my books as an asset. And this investment bank says, "Oh, we'd like to buy that asset off you." And with the money, I lend that to Joe and I have another asset on my books. And the bank says, "Okay, we'll buy that off you too." And the money, I lend to Joe and I have another asset on my books. Now the pension fund has been watching what's been going on between me and in the investment bank and thinks, we'd like a bit of that action too. So they buy the asset off me for 100. I lend the money to Joe and I have another asset on my books. Now, supposing that Joe and his mates start defaulting on their mortgage repayments,
The problem is we don't know in which asset their mortgages sit anymore. And supposing the value of their properties starts going down. Now, in principle, everything is still okay so long as we hang on to these assets and we believe they're worth 100. After all, the value of his properties could start going back up again. But supposing the pension fund loses confidence in what is going on and decides to sell this asset, and supposing the most they can get for it is 50, the moment they do that, the other assets get marked down to market value, and instead of being worth 100, they all become toxic assets which are worth 50. And look at what has happened. The pension fund has lost half its money, I've lost half my money, the investment bank has lost half its money, Joe Bloggs and his friends have lost their houses, and the only bank that could do something about it by extending credit into the system doesn't trust what is going on. It has lost something maybe even more valuable than money. It has lost confidence.
When water freezes, it turns into ice. And that's what happened to the banks. Interbank lending or credit froze up. But that was just a result of what had gone on before. And in my opinion, we shouldn't really be calling it the credit crisis, but rather the global disaster in which greedy bankers sold us shitty assets while lining their own pockets with bonuses, leaving $1 trillion hole in the economy for which we will all be paying for a generation.